Welcome to the final Beyond Default for the year. Today, I want to do something a little bit different, and that is I want to take you on a journey. I've been thinking a lot lately about how do we finish the year with intention. And so today we're going to go on a little bit of a journey to finish the year with intention, which is going to be about reflecting, recognizing, realizing, releasing, and resting. So let's get going. The reason I put this podcast together was that as the year comes to a close, I really want to provide a space for you to do something a little bit different. So not more doing, not fixing, not another push to get things done before the end of the year. Instead, I want you to just try and finish the year with intention. So I'm not sure, where you're listening from. Are you listening from a space of I'm tired? Maybe you're reflective. Maybe you're proud of what you've achieved this year. Maybe you're just relieved that this year is over and let's not have it on repeat. But wherever you are, you're exactly where you need to be. I want you to know that. So today I want to gently walk you through these simple ideas. Like I mentioned, it's not a checklist, but actually what it is a pause. And what I will say to you is that if I go too fast through this podcast, you are welcome to pause at any point in time to take the time that you need to walk through these steps with me. So you also don't need to have the answers today. You can come back and watch it with the answers. You can take the time to listen today and find the answers later. And I'm not going to ask you to come up with a plan for 2026, okay? There's none of that. Just a few quiet moments to acknowledge what this year has been for you and what you're ready to carry forward into the new year, but more importantly, what you're not wanting to carry forward into the new year as well. So it's time to take a breath and let's begin. So the first simple idea that I wanted to talk you through was to reflect. And I'm going to do something a little bit different in this podcast today, and that is I'm going to be pretty vulnerable and authentic, and I'm going to share some of my thoughts as I've been going through this process for myself, because I wouldn't recommend this to you if I hadn't thought of it for myself, and also recommended it to some of the people that I coach and lead. Okay, so first of all, I want you to reflect on what are the moments that you've had this year that have really stretched you? So one of the things that I know really stretched me this year was I was invited to go to North America and actually train to speak at a seminar and to train a group of about 100 people who wanted to build a similar business to what Peter and I have in Australia and New Zealand. They wanted to build that in the US. And so I was invited to speak at a seminar and teach them. So there was a small group on one day and then a much larger group over the Saturday, Sunday. And that really stretched me. It stretched me in ways because whilst I had been working in this arena for so many years, I hadn't actually taught people structurally how to do it, other than, Peter and I have hundreds of coaches across Australia and New Zealand, and I've kind of shown them the way one-to-one and by role modeling the way, but to teach it to a mass of people was something really quite different. And so that stretched me. It also stretched me for just needing to believe in myself, that I was worthy of that I could do it, that I was deserving of actually being asked to do that. And that I didn't feel guilty about it, that I was given the opportunity over some other people, which I've certainly done that in the past. The other thing is that the reason it stretched me was it made me start to realize that I'd had a dream many years beforehand. In fact, when Peter and I first started our health business, I had a dream that I wanted to be able to help people. But I didn't want geography to be the boundary. And prior to COVID, the majority of what we did was actually face-to-face. So our business model was face-to-face. And I said to Pete, I don't want to have a business where geography or the physical nature of our business actually stops us from being able to or limits our ability to make a positive impact. And COVID actually really made us think twice about how do we actually deliver our business model. And so as a result of that, everything moved to be a virtual business offering. And so as a result of that, the opportunity that presented itself with the US made me realize that the dream that Peter and I had created together, back in 2018, actually could become a reality, that we could help people regardless of the boundaries. So that was really exciting. So it stretched me to a place that I didn't know that I could go, but also helped me see that stretching meant that so much more was possible. So I want you to think about that, is what are the moments that have stretched you in 2025? The next thing I want you to think about is, have there been moments that surprised you? Now, this could be a good surprise or it could be a surprise, oh, I wasn't expecting that. And I certainly had one of those that I want to share with you. So I had a relationship with some people who I had trusted for many years, and I admired their values and their leadership that I had experienced over many years. So the trust that I had in them was very high, and they actually went about posting some things on social media. There was some conflict and disagreement and things like that were going on that was really being handled through constructive conversations. But then they chose to post some things on social media that were hurtful and disrespectful, not necessarily to me or Peter, but to other people. And that really took me by surprise. And I guess it took me by surprise because I just didn't expect them to behave in that way. And I guess what I learned through that experience was that people can be unpredictable. And when people are hurting, they can hurt others. There's a saying, hurting people hurt others. And that was something that I really realized. And that hurt is always your own version of the truth. So regardless of what I knew of the truth of the situation, their version of the truth was very different. So they were hurting from a place of their own version of the truth. And I think the other thing that I really learned from going through that surprising experience was that it's very easy to get sucked into other people's drama, other people's hurt, again, other people's version of the truth and how they feel about that. And I needed, and so did Peter, we needed people to hold us steady during that time. And that's the bit that I guess I wasn't surprised about, in that, the people who I knew that I could rely on, my steady mentors were there for me. The people who I had the utmost respect for in my business world, they were there for me. They were the people who were able to keep me steady and hold me steady during whatever the twister was that was going on around me. So there's another thing. What are the moments that surprised you? And yours might be good. Mine wasn't so good. The moments that have changed you. I want you to think about the moments that have changed you, the ones that happen in quiet, without the applause. No one knew about it, but it was something that changed you. I would say for me, something that has changed me this year is my change to my morning routine. I very much, and in fact, I've got two favorite mornings of the week that I actually, you might think this is weird, but I get up at 3:30 in the morning because I've got a walk and talk that I do with my New Zealand team, which is 4 till 4:30. And the time between 4:30 and when anyone else in the house wakes up, which is about 6 a.m., so there's about an hour and a half, I have complete quiet. I bought myself a lovely side table and lamp, and I sit on the couch. It's completely dark except for this lamp that's on, and I read. I do a Bible study because it helps me first thing in the morning connect with God. So I do a Bible study. I really go to a place where I'm going deep inside myself, and I do my reading. And this has very much helped me as far as I really needed that time. Given some of the challenges that we've had this year, I really needed that time for myself, the time to refuel me. And it's helped me with learning about me, learning about my leadership, learning about my purpose. So that's definitely a moment that has changed me in the quiet that no one else is observing. Okay, so this isn't about listing everything that happened, but maybe just like some of the things that you're noticing. Okay, so when you look back on this year, what are the moments that have truly shaped you? Not just, like I said, not everything that's happened, but who did you become from some of those moments, and what did you learn from them? Okay, so we've done reflect. Now let's move on to recognize. This is an opportunity for you to recognize your wins. So, a few things that I want to encourage you to do right now. This is where you really slow down and notice the wins that you've often dismissed. Okay, there is some research that states when we take the time to recognize and reward ourselves for an achievement, we increase our confidence in our abilities. So please do take the time to reflect on this. It doesn't have to be big achievements, it can be small ones. So, when did you show up when it was hard? I would say to you, like, there's been some people that I've worked with this year. There's a saying that my mentor uses where he says, there are times in your life where you work with people who tolerate you versus appreciate you. And I feel like this year I've worked in spaces where people have tolerated me versus appreciated me. And that's when I've had to show up when it's hard. And I've had to show up with grace and doing what John Maxwell says, and that is to put a 10 on their heads, regardless of how I feel that they feel about me. I've had to show up putting a 10 on their head, going, this person is a 10 out of 10 person, and seeing in them the things that, that are potential for them, regardless of how they treat me. So that's been hard, but it's been a great leadership experience. What about, when it comes to an achievement, have you had to hold a boundary, where you've again, like, that's been a big achievement? I know, like, I've worked with some people over this year who've probably abused some of the boundaries. But what I realized, there's a story that a counselor shared with me once where she was saying, imagine that your neighbor has a garden and you've got this beautiful manicured garden. And you look over in your neighbor's yard and you see that their garden has got weeds and it's overgrowing and so forth. So you go over to their garden and you start pulling out the weeds and pruning the rose bushes and making it look immaculate. And then you look back at your own garden and realize that your garden has got weeds and things are dying. And so you go back. And then what happens is your neighbor's garden actually starts to die. And instead of your neighbor taking responsibility for making sure it's okay, they start to get resentful towards you because you're not looking after it. Well, that's happened a bit to me this year where, I have crossed a boundary and done more things for people than I should have done. And as a result of that, then when I've stopped doing it, they've started to get resentful to me. And so what I would say to you is, there's a really great book called Boundaries by Cloud and Townsend. Now, it does have a lot of biblical references, but for those of you who are not Christian, and if you can look past that, there's a lot of really great fruit, such great knowledge in this book. Because the teaching is amazing. And what it will do is, if boundaries are a thing that maybe this year hasn't worked so well for you. It could just help you put boundaries in place. But just know that when you do start to put boundaries in place, it's often the people who have been abusing the boundaries who will be most upset about the boundaries being put in place. Okay, what about, have you chosen yourself this year? Is there somewhere that you could recognize and go, well done you. You made a choice to love you and put you first. I would say to you that that is probably something I have not done well this year. So I'm not going to recognize it for myself because I look at some of my personal goals. In fact, I would say to you, and this is not good, but 3 out of 5 of my personal goals I have not achieved this year. And they were probably my top 3 outside of the, personal morning time. But I've not achieved them, but that's, again, given me a good reflection point. So what about you? Did you do something this year that you're really proud of to choose you first? Growing in confidence. I mean, I've coached a lot of people this year who've had a health transformation and they have grown in confidence as a result. I think for me, one of the things that I've realized is the more I read books, the more I submit myself to my mentors to be coached and developed, the more confidence I grow. One of the books, actually, I've got a whole list of books here that I'm referring to as we're talking. So the book that I just referred to there was this one, Boundaries by Cloud and Townsend. The next book is this one. So this is Worthy by Jamie Kern-Lima. That has been a really insightful book that I've read over the last year, and it really helped me to see that there's so much more to confidence, and it's actually about self-worth. So there's a good one. If you feel like this year your confidence has grown, or maybe you'd like to grow it more, that is a great book to read. But I definitely feel like I have grown in confidence this year. I didn't think that that was possible because I've done a lot of work on my confidence over the last 30 years. But I feel like I have grown a lot in confidence because I have allowed myself to be coached and mentored, and I've read lots of books and things like that. So I'm pretty proud of that. The other thing that I feel like maybe you could recognize yourself for is, did you do some things this year to protect your energy, to protect your space, to protect, what the things that you wanted to achieve? So for me, I feel like I did a good job on that, protecting my energy, my morning time around my reading and journaling and prayer. That's been a really conscious decision I've made. But I realized too that if I miss that time, I don't ever get it back through the day. It's like if I don't get it in that morning, I don't get it back in during the day. So it's very important that I do honor myself by doing it first thing in the morning. Okay, so what are you proud of this year that maybe no one else has noticed, but it mattered deeply to you? I want you to take notes and think about that for you. And if you need to pause, like I said, you go ahead and do that, okay? Or if you need to just listen to all of this and then take some time later, go for it. Okay, the next step in this is to realize, okay? Realize some of the lessons. Now, obviously, I've been talking a bit about this as I've been going through, because I think from the reflections and the recognition, there is a lot of realization of the learnings, okay? So this is like where the real heart comes into this. It's like, just take the time. Every year teaches us something. And, whether we ask for the lesson or not, we're going to get it, right? So what are the lessons? What do you need? I've realized the lesson is that one of the lessons I've certainly learned is that I need time for me. I need time alone. I'm an introvert, and I draw strength from within. And so, but I spend a lot of my days giving out to other people. And I love that. Like, that's my mantra. I make a positive impact on the world every day. So I want to do that. But I've got to realize, in order to do that, I've got to give to myself first. I've got to have time for me. I've got to have time alone. I've got to have my time with God. And then I can give so much more to others. What about, is there a lesson that you've learned around the things that you value. I have really realized that I value family. My family are very important to me, and being particularly my little family, we live away from a lot of our greater family, and so we are very tight as a little family, and we look after each other because we don't have a lot of family around, and so sometimes actually the family that we are connecting with is just us, and so I know that we value that family. I know I value my mentors and the role that they play in our lives. I have worked out so much that I value my mum and dad and everything that they have contributed to my life. And I think as I grow older and older, I realize just how bad I was at appreciating them when I was younger and how much I appreciate them now, and wish I would spend more time actually valuing them and letting them know that. Love my mum and dad very much. I value quality time over quantity. I love spending time with people, and I love hearing people out and I love helping people. I know one of my values is that I want to help people. I also value people who care for my heart as much as I care for theirs. And I think this year I have had some people that have hurt my heart, and I know that they have never intended to do that, but I know now that I value relationships where there is a mutual respect and a mutual care for each other. What about, have you got some lessons around things that actually no longer serve you? Like, that doesn't work for me anymore, therefore I need to stop doing that. What are those kind of things? Have you got some lessons about, who have you become? Who are you becoming? I notice, like, the more I grow as a leader, or the more I learn about leadership, the more I realize I don't know what I'm doing. That is humbling and scary all at the same time. But fortunately, I've got mentors and I've got books and things like that to help me grow. And fortunately, I have a lot of people who I lead who have grace for me. And that's probably something else that I've had as a lesson, is I realize I really value people who have forgiveness in their heart and know that I would never intentionally go out of my way to hurt people. And if I do, it's definitely a mistake on my part, but not intended. And I love that I have people in my life who have grace with me. And so that's certainly, because I know the more I learn about myself and my leadership, the more I know I've got so much to learn. And so I'm not going to get it perfect. And so I value the people I lead who actually have grace for my leadership, or the fact that I'm growing as a leader. So what are the lessons that you've learned about yourself? What did you learn that you needed? What did you learn that you valued? What no longer works for you? And what did you learn about the person you've become, or the person you're becoming? This isn't about self-improvement. I'm not asking you to think about now, what are all the things I'm going to improve about myself next year? It's all about just self-awareness. What did you learn? What did you realize about you this year? Yeah, and what has this year actually taught you about yourself, your needs, what really matters to you? So we've talked about reflect, recognize, realize. Now let's talk about release. It's all about let it go, let it go. Okay, so I better not sing, but I just want you to really create a space right now for letting things go. When I first learned about coaching, my coaching was on brain-based coaching, and they would actually say to us, we'd coach a client, and they'd say, after that client leaves, physically release yourself. Like they'd get us to, kind of wipe ourselves and put things like we'd imagine putting things on a shelf, like taking them out of our mind and putting them on a shelf, so that you could physically let go of things. And that's our opportunity to do that right now. What are the things that we need to park in 2025 that we did not want to have in 2026? Okay. So what are some of the expectations that you have had of yourself this year that you go, I'm no longer going to have that expectation of myself? Or maybe it's an expectation that someone else has of you that you're like, I'm not going to even try and live up to that expectation anymore. It's a bit like when I was saying about my leadership, like I'm not going to try and live up to an expectation of being perfect. I will make mistakes. Not because I intend to. I never, ever intend to hurt someone. I will make mistakes. I'll try and do the very best I possibly can. But I cannot have an expectation put on me to be perfect. And I'm certainly not going to have that of myself. What about, do you need to let go of guilt? Guilt around not doing enough, not being enough. Oh my goodness, like what kind of guilt? What about forgiveness? I've got this book with me today. This is called 8 Steps to Happiness by Dr. Anthony Grant and Alison Lee. This was a study that they did with the ABC in Australia, the ABC TV network in Australia. It was called Making Australia Happy. And in this book, one of the things it talks about is actually forgiveness and how important, actually, it's one of the steps to true happiness is to forgive. And it actually talks in here about a whole forgiveness process and writing a forgiveness letter. Do you need to write a forgiveness letter? Maybe you need to forgive yourself. Is there someone that you need to forgive? But just write it out and forgive. You don't have to send the letter, and that's what it says in here. You don't have to send it, but forgive, let it go. You don't need to take it with you. What about maybe you've got some old goals that you keep carrying every year and you don't get them? Maybe you need to just go, I don't need to worry about that for now. I'm just going to park that goal. I didn't get it again, but I'm not going to feel guilty about it. But if they're not serving you, if you're not delivering them and you're constantly feeling like I'm not living up to them, maybe you need to let that go. What about letting go of the pressure to carry everything that you haven't done this year into next year? Let's let go of that. And just remember, you do not have to bring everything with you from last year into this year. So what do you need to stop carrying from this year into next year? Is it expectation? Is it pressure? Is it the version of yourself right now? Do you want a new version of yourself that actually fits differently into next year? So the last R that I want to talk about today is rest. And rest is not a reward for finishing everything. I used to think that. It's part of how we heal and grow and refresh for the year. So rest can look different for different people, though. It could be physical rest. It could just be mental space. It could be having some emotional quiet time. It could be having a sleep in. It could be stepping back from the noise. It could be turning off your socials. It could be not committing to things. Like I had someone the other day invite us up to the Central Coast for some time over the holidays. And I said, look, I really would love to come. I just don't want to commit to when I'm going to do that. I want to be able to come when I'm rested, when I feel like it. And they were like, yes, do that. So rest is not falling behind. It's listening to you, your body, your mind, and what it needs. So what does rest look like for you? I know what it's going to look like for me. It's going to be catching up on some movies and some reading and relaxing and just falling asleep on the couch when I want to, spending some time with my children, playing card games, playing different games. But what does it look like for you, and how do you want to live that out to finish off this year with a lot of intention? Now, there were some other books that I had here to share, and I can't even remember why, but how about I share them before I wrap up? So one is Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. In fact, there's 2 books here on change. I feel like this year, some people have really struggled with change. Who Moved My Cheese is a great book to help you realize, what does change feel like for you? And the other one is Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. So sometimes change can happen in your life, and we hold on to the past. And there's a really great model by William Bridges about change, where people spend a lot of time grieving and letting go of the old ways, and sometimes they'll never let go of the old way. Okay. And when you've got an opportunity over this particular period right now, is what do you need to let go of? Before you actually start thinking about what is it, because the new way can only be the new way if you're ready to see the new way, but not if we're holding on to the old one. And I guess this one here, given the subject of rest, is 3 seconds. The power of thinking twice. So maybe whilst you're resting, think about how you can take the opportunity to think twice rather than necessarily thinking and acting straight away. Okay, so as we come to the end of this podcast, this episode, plus this podcast to end off the year, I want to remind you of something really important. Nothing is lost when you pause for 3 seconds or for a little bit of time. Reflection is not standing still. Rest is not falling behind. Letting go is not giving up. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is make space. Over the coming weeks, so I'm not going to be here for a couple of weeks, I'll be doing just that. Okay, I will be pausing, reflecting and resting and having peace and letting go. I'll be taking a short break from all different things to rest, reflect, and allow the next year to form and the intention for next year to form inside of me. I would encourage you to do the same. If you're also stepping back, I hope you do so without any guilt, without any pressure, and without the need to have everything done or figured out before you do. Thank you so much for being here with me this year and supporting me to launch this podcast, for listening, for reflecting, and choosing to live a life of intention and not one of default. I'll be back in the first week of January, rested and ready to reset for the year. So until then, take care and Merry Christmas.